Dear learners, welcome back. This is Jitendra Singh, Assistant Professor in Media and Communication Studies at Chaudhary Bansilal University, Haryana. And today, dear learners, we are going to discuss on the topic Contribution of Women in Indian Media under the broad discipline of journalism and mass communication. But before that, let me take this opportunity to congratulate all the women across the globe. And as we can see that whole world is dipped into the pink color today. And not just today, but for the whole month of March, we celebrate International Women's Month or International Women's Day. So I must congratulate and salute all the women, and we'll look forward for a world which is free of bias and stereotypes and gender inequalities. So we are looking for building up such a world which is actually free of these biases and stereotypes for all the women, where men and women would be treated equally, and as the Constitution of India also guarantees each and every men and women the equal rights. So we celebrate this International Women's Day. So I must congratulate and salute all the women across the globe, and even my teachers, my students and my colleagues, everyone, happy Women's Day. So let's begin the session, and let's see what all we are going to include in this session. So in this session, I would also be talking about the International Women's Day. So I would be giving you an overview what International Women's Day is, and what is the vision of UNESCO on Women's Day, and what is the particular theme of this 2022 year, and then I would be focusing on the different women achievers who have contributed a lot in media. So my thirst area would be majorly on television, and I would be discussing about the women achievers who have contributed in different way in different media. But I would also like to mention that this is for every anyone, it is very difficult, and it is not possible because there are time constraints and there are other limitations also. We cannot include each and every woman in this session as we have the time constraints. And there are many women achievers from Suchita Dalal to Rana Ayub to Barkhadat to Anjana Kashyap or Shweta Singh. There are a lot of women in our media who could have been included in this session, but I have started this from the very beginning of the media, and especially from the print media. So I have taken some of the pioneer women who have broken the stereotype somewhere and entered into a male dominating profession, which was considered as a male dominating profession. So I have chosen some of the important gems of the women, and I have tried to include all those women and their contribution into this session. So let's begin this session, and let us first understand what International Women's Day is. And it is no secret that as per the United Nations that the future is female, and the month of March is marked as the Women's History Month all across the globe, where International Women's Day commemorates the cultural, political and socio-economic achievements of women. So there is no denying of the fact that this is going to happen, that one day we would be staying in a world which will be led by the women itself, and the women will be leaders, will be taking different decisions, and women will be the leader of the world. So this is how International Day is celebrated, and keeping in mind the cultural, political and socio-economic achievements of the women across the globe. And it is a day which is marked to call a gender equal world, which is free of bias, as I have already said, I have already mentioned, free of stereotypes and discrimination, and one that is diverse, equitable, inclusive, while differences are valued and celebrated. It means that we would be living in a world which will be free of all the stereotypes, and there will be no discrimination with men or women, or there will be equal rights to everyone. And there might be differences in values, but that will be celebrated. So each year International Women's Day is celebrated on March 8th, and UNESCO if we talk about UNESCO has also stated that International Women's Day is an occasion to celebrate the progress made towards achieving gender equality and women's empowerment, but also to critically reflect on those accomplishments and strive for a greater momentum towards gender equality worldwide. So see, this UNESCO also emphasize on gender equality and women's empowerment. What all this day is all about is the crux of the story is all about the gender equality and empowering women in society and giving them equal rights. So it is a day to recognize the extraordinary acts of women and to stand together as a united force to advance gender equality around the world. So the theme for the International Women's Day 2022 is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. So the United Nations theme given this year is Gender Equality for Sustainable Tomorrow in recognition and celebration of the women and girls who are leading the charge on climate change adaptation and response to honor their leadership and contribution towards a sustainable future. As we can see that there are a lot of women coming up for who are organizing different or leading different awareness campaigns for climate change and making the people aware about this important issue. So we should respect and honor their leadership and their contribution towards a sustainable future. Keeping that in mind, this year's theme has been put upon or kept as Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. This is in recognition and celebration of the women and girls who are leading the charge on climate change adaptation. So similarly, as we have seen, the women of New India are breaking stereotypes and making their presence felt everywhere. You know, their presence is everywhere, from cinema to politics to academics. Everywhere the women are leading, and they are fighting odds, braving gender bias and creating a space for themselves in the world, whether it is a business or the media industry. While there are a good number of women achievers around us and who have created their own space by setting a benchmark in the society, we cannot deny this fact that there are a lot of women who have definitely broken different stereotypes and who have entered into the spaces of which were earlier marked as men only spaces, and now they have achieved a lot of success in that area, and they have created their own space into the society. So we can also include here that the representation of women is in every sphere of the life, including media, have also changed in the recent years as more women are joining this profession. So this International Women's Day, we are here to present some women tycoons in the media industry to understand their contribution and the daunting challenges they face in the professional space. So because on the auspicious occasion of this Women's Day, we are here to talk about those important women or women tycoons. Rather would be this would be the right word to call them tycoons, as they have rocked the media industry and they have made their mark in media, and to understand what challenges they had faced during that time and how they created their space in the professional spaces. So the first one in this list is Dr. Annie Besant, and Dr. Annie Besant was a British social reformer, a feminist, political and religious activist, women's rights activist, and a supporter of India's Indian nationalism. She came to India in 1893. So you must be wondering why have we chosen Annie Besant, or why have we are we here to discuss about her. She has a lot of things related to our Indian nationalism, and in the field she has a lot of contribution in the field of journalism also. So we would be learning that also. So she was one of the most influential women who not only inspired the Indians to fight for their independence, but also stood by constitutional methods for changing political reforms. And in 1913, she joined Indian politics by claiming home rule for India. So she is better known for claiming the home rule for India, and she inspired the Indians to demand for their independence with the Britishers, and That is why, and using the constitutional way, the constitutional methods for changing the political reforms, she inspired the Indians, and she made them made us all aware about. And she not only this, she stood by us for fight with the Britishers in getting the freedom of India. So she's also known for her contribution in the field of journalism, as I said earlier, as she founded two journals, The Common Weal, which was weekly dealing with national reform problems, and The New India. She brought the existing newspaper Madras Standard and renamed it as New India, which was a daily newspaper and that was a powerful tool for fostering home rule and revolutionizing Indian journalism for 15 years. So this is one of the reasons that why we have included Annie Besant, because she was an Irish lady. She came to India, and she was a spiritual leader also. She was a social reformer also, and she fought for the independence of India. She made the people aware about the independence and what is the need of the independence for us, what is the need of freedom for us. And not only this, she worked for the women empowerment also. And I think this is the best day to discuss and discuss about her contribution in the society, as she was the first one of the first women in India who talked about the freedom of the women, and later the women also joined the freedom struggle. And because she was a journalist, and there were two different journals, two different newspapers on her credit, the Commonweal and the New India, which she headed, and she used to publish articles, and those articles were very inspiring for the Indians. And these two newspapers were the mouthpiece for fostering home rule, and these two newspapers actually revolutionized Indian journalism for the next 15 years. So this is probably one of the reasons why we have chosen Mrs. Besant for discussing on the International Women's Day, and there are a lot of other reasons also. And the second would be that she would always be remembered for her first attempt to regularize formal training of journalism in India. To promote formal training to the budding journalists at her newspaper, she started the first school of journalism at the Department of English at National University of Adyar, that is in Madras, but it could not last long. But actually she did her efforts, as there were no formal training at that time. There was no journalism school, there was no institute which could provide formal education in India. And we have seen that there were a few examples before independence. The first attempt was made by Mrs. Annie Besant, who started provided training to the people who used to work at her newspaper, The New India. So she made a provision at the Department of English in Adyar University, where she used to get them trained. And this was the kind of first attempt, but it could not last long. Later, there was another attempt which was made by Aligarh Muslim University also, and once the India got freedom, and we learned that Punjab University was probably the first university to have started the first courses in journalism, the regular courses in journalism. So this is how journalism as an education also began in India. So we always credit Annie Besant for this, because she was one of the pioneers who initiated training in journalism in India. And then she entered politics because she saw that India's independence was essential, which was actually for the old age wisdom to become an inspiration for the whole world. And the home rule movement she organized, which spread all over the India, and she used all her resources to bring together on the common platform of the All India Home Rule League the two sections of the Indian National Congress, which had been divided since 1907. So she did a lot of efforts to join the two sections of the Indian National Congress. So on behalf of the All India Home Rule League with Lal Bahadur Shastri ji, she initiated this, and she made the efforts to join these two sections of the Indian National Congress in 1907, and she started this home rule movement in India. She was the pioneer, and along with Lal Bahadur Shastri ji. And later she was elected the president of, she was the first women president of the Indian National Congress also, inspiring Indians with a dynamic vision of India's future. And because of her performance in inspiring the Indian people to love their independence, she was imprisoned for 3 months in 1917. She adopted the slogan, "Strike while the iron is hot," as well as making it hot by hitting. She taught Indian journalists how to write good lead articles, criticizing government action while staying within the spirit of the law. So this is also very interesting that she made the Indian journalists learn how to write good articles, lead articles, and that too also on criticizing government without taking action and without staying within the limit, within the spirits of the law. So this is also an interesting fact about her. And one more thing, that when she was imprisoned for making the Indians, inspiring the Indians about their independence. At that time, there was a stir in the whole nation, and people were asking the Britishers to relieve her. And even Gandhiji played an important role in asking the Britishers to release her, and she was later released because of the combined efforts of all the people. And she was an untiring worker for the upliftment of women. So this is the right day to remember this lady, because she was the one who was the first advocate of women empowerment, or different things. The status of women in the country like India, the condition of women in India was very poor, and we had a patriarchal society. So at that time, during those years, she talked about the women upliftment, and she pleaded again and again for the radical change in social condition, and she also pleaded for the social change and the condition of the women to improve. So she fought for freedom of thoughts, women's rights, secularism, women's rights, and she was the first one who advocated for birth control. So that is why these are the reasons that why we have included this Inni Besant in the beginning of this session. And this is the first one, the premier women contributor in media, who not only started newspapers, who not only inspired the Indian people, but also stood by them in fighting and getting the freedom for the India. And she also started. She took the journalism as a tool to educate people and inspire them for their independence. So this way there were large number of women who were inspired to realize their self-esteem and participated in the freedom movement. So due to Mrs. Inni Besant only that time, that a lot of women of India which were who got who realized their self-esteem and started participating in the freedom movement of India. So the second next lady in the list is Homai Vyarwala, or Homi Vyarwala, and she was born in Navsari and Gujarat, and she was one of the very first women in India who was the photojournalist, the first women photojournalist of India. Her father was a Parsi theatre artist, and she joined this profession, which was earlier, which was a very different thing, very considered as a magical profession, because camera that time was a new technology for everyone. People used to hear about camera, and that was a kind of a magical technique for everyone. And she entered into the scene with as a photojournalist, which was she was breaking that stereotypes where already men existed, and this profession was under the control of the men only. And she joined this profession when camera itself was a magical technology, and breaking all the stereotypes of the society, she joined this profession. And this was a huge thing in a patriarchal society, and even more challenging for a woman at that time to join such a profession, to become a camera person or to become a photojournalist at that time was a huge thing. Even we see today there are limited women who are technically sound or doing technical jobs like camera persons or editors, and even there are limited photojournalists, but she was one of those pioneer who before the independence of India she started doing photojournalism. So her photographic masterpieces included the capture of flag hosting at the Red Fort on 15th August 1947, and the departure of Lord Mountbatten. She also captured the departure of Lord Mountbatten, and she also got the opportunity to capture the death anniversary, or the death of national leaders such as Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Lal Bahadur Shastri, and the visits of international dignitaries such as Ho Chi Minh and Queen Elizabeth and Jackie Kennedy. So these are stamped forever in public memory also. She was awarded the Padam Vibhushan in 2011. So she has been awarded with such an important civilian award. And her first photograph was published in Bombay Chronicle. After the Second World War, she started working with Illustrated Weekly of India magazine. Many of her photographs were published in magazines such as Times, Life, and other international publications as photo stories, which is again achievement for the lady, as her articles were, her photographs were published as stories in Times magazine or Life magazine and other international publications. And she joined, her photographs used to get published in Bombay Chronicle, and she joined the Illustrated Weekly magazine also. And later on, her photographs were full of artistic excellence. Yes, this is something which we need to learn from her, that how good she was at taking photographs. She was very creative in photography. She knew the craft. She learned the craft from her husband, and she used to take very creative photographs as she utilized the backlight to create depth in the content, and she also used the low angles to make the subject more powerful. So this is how she was master in her craft. She knew how to take very creative photographs to create how to create an image, a very powerful image. So she had that tricks, and she understand the craft very much. So she was very artistic in her profession also. And the next lady in the next women achiever actually in our list is Mrs. Vinod Kashyap. She was with All India Radio, and she had a magical voice, and she was actually called the voice of Akashvani. And she was a very popular news presenter at All India Radio and Akashvani of the yesteryears. And she was the one who gave the news of Indo-China War in 1965 and Indo-Pakistan War in 1971, and also the death of, she gave the live commentary on the death of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri, and Mrs. Indira Gandhi. She served the All India Radio for almost 3 decades. 30 years she dedicated to All India Radio, and her morning and evening news bulletins were very popular among the masses and the listeners. And she was a very important All India Radio announcer that time, a news reader that time, and she would always be remembered for her contribution in radio and the way she presented the important news to the public, especially the way she gave her commentary on the death of these important national leaders, and also during the time of war also, the way she announced and she gave the information of the Indo-China War in 1965 and Pakistan was again magical. So Vinod Kashyap would always be remembered for her voice and her contribution as a news presenter and as a journalist working with All India Radio and Akashvani Delhi. So the next lady in our list is Devika Rani. So you all must be knowing about her. Devika Rani was the first lady of Indian cinema, and she started her career with movie Karma in 1933, and later acted in several other Bollywood films. She had won one of the highest civilian award, Padam Shri, and was the first recipient of Dada Saheb Phalke Award for lifetime achievement. And at that time there was a disrespect and lack of understanding for this profession, and this profession was considered as the domain of undesirable sections of the then Indian society. So see, she also break the stereotypes, because she entered in the domain of an area where which was already dominated by the men. And as far as I remember, there was a time when the women were not allowed into the cinema, and it was considered as a bad profession for women from good family, or it was not the women's were not allowed to enter into the cinema, and because she married the producer Himanshu Roy, and both of them went to Germany. So see the dedication of the lady. She was not only just an actress; she learned acting also. She learned the craft of filmmaking, and she learned that she took the training from Berlin. She went to Berlin, and from UFA studio she learned the basics of the filmmaking, the art of filmmaking, and acting also. And she, as far as my knowledge goes, I remember she started as a dress designer, and she assisted many films with her husband and in art direction, and later she joined the film as the first heroine of Indian cinema. So Himanshu Roy, along with Raj Narayan Dubey, established a production studio, Bombay Talkies, in partnership with certain other people, and the studio produced several successful films over the next 5-6 years, and Devika Rani played the lead role in many of them. And her film Achut Kanya got huge success, and her on-screen co-star, pairing with Ashok Kumar, became very popular, and their on-screen chemistry was very much loved and appreciated by the people at that time. And there is one reason also, that because before that time we had seen the silent era, and the films which were made earlier were the films which were silent films. And when she joined the cinema started talking, and there was a lot of films which after the Alam era, the film started, there was sound system in the film, there was dialogue in the films, and the talkie film started producing in India also. So she joined the Indian film industry when the sound system also came in. And during those days, entry of women in cinema was restricted, as I already discussed, and only men used to play. So this is also, a very important fact, that at that time, in certain films, men used to play the roles of female co-stars. And during that time, imagine how she would have entered the industry and how she would have joined this. The kind of challenges she had faced, we will not be able to imagine even, because at that time, in that era of time, it was very difficult for a woman to enter into films and to do a lead role. And where she was the first one who took that challenge and joined the film industry. And so it is very difficult, and that is why we have included this. We have included her in this list, and she is also credited for being one of the earliest personalities who took the position of Indian cinema to global standards also through her films, which were mostly tragic, romantic dramas that contained social themes. So with this, we come to the end of this session, and I hope you would have definitely learned about some of the women achievers of the Indian scene, and in the next session also we will be continuing with some other women achievers. Till then, stay tuned.